Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Here we are again. Welcome to the Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass. Go to fullcompass.com. We know VO. It's Kevin Kilpatrick in Nashville and Bobby Maxwell in Cincinnati. Hey, Bobby.
No, I'm not. I'm in Nashville now.
Oh, did I say Cincinnati?
You did say Cincinnati.
I am such a clown. I mean, the new year is here, and I'm already making errors all over the place.
That's okay.
So, yeah, I know. Well, welcome, neighbor, to the Making Waves VO podcast.
It's good to be here.
We have got a really cool, informative episode today, and it's going to get the new year started off right. We have a great guest with us. Our guest on this episode of the Making Waves VO podcast is a voice actor, chief operating officer of the Global Voice Acting Academy, rates and performance coach, and one of the industry's foremost rates experts and advocates. So much so that he created the GVAA Rate Guide. Please welcome David Toback. Hey, David.
Hey, David.
Hey, Bobby. Kevin, thanks for having me. Great to be here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, my friend, as well. Welcome. We're going to be talking about rates today on the Making Waves VO podcast. First off, can you give us, David, a synopsis of your VO career and how it led to the Global Voice Acting Academy?
Sure. I mean, basically, I started kind of just, I had the traditional story of I don't like what I'm doing anymore. I want to do something different. Had a pretty rough experience. I almost lost my leg in an accident, almost cut it off, running into a steel beam at a charity event, and kind of set things into motion in life where, I wanted something different because life was going to be a lot different than, there's the potential for it to, they didn't think I was going to keep my leg, and then they didn't think that I'd walk without a cane. So I was facing a lot of things where life was going to be changing in a lot of ways. And I started thinking really about what I want to do. And that's kind of what propelled me into voiceover, and had a suggestion from a friend who was in radio advertising. She's like, "You're so great. You need to do this." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. I'll just do it." Of course, it's like, yeah, I'll
that's
just
how
go
easy
do
it
that.
is.
Yeah, everybody, it's that easy, everyone. No, so I wound up, that was a few years, and that kind of propelled me to kind of do what I wanted to do instead of just doing something for money. So that kind of put me on that path, and I wound up getting coaching from a local coach in the Orlando area, Tampa area, and not to the caliber of coaching that we have at the GVAA. We'll say that. So I wound up coming across GVAA after I had some training and started doing some classes, and just kind of was a mentor a little bit or a mentee of Christina Malizia, who created and founded GVAA and is the owner. And I came across my first job I got from Craigslist. And they said, "What's your rate?" And I was like, "Aren't you supposed to tell me?" I didn't know. Like, I had voices.com at the time. I had an agent. This was like 2015. And so then all of a sudden, I was like, I don't know what to charge. Like, oh my God, I need to respond right away. You get freaked out because someone's about to give you a job and you want to get back to them immediately. So I did it for about $200. And Christina was like, "Oh, I would have done a little bit more, but here's some information." So I thought, I should probably not be the only dumbass in voiceover that doesn't know how to charge for their rates. I should make a guide for myself. So I made this small guide that covered some things. I had a sample or a survey from Sean Caldwell and some other areas that were like, these are what current rates kind of are, and took rate guides from Edge Studio and everywhere that had rates, and I kind of put them together into something that made sense for me. And I said, "Hey, Christina, what do you think of this?" And she lost her mind, and she was like, we need this in the industry. Like, she had been working on some rates herself, like trying to solve this issue of the wild, wild west of rates. And it was kind of like this perfect combination of me coming up with this thing that I just thought, would be good for me, and her being like, "Oh, we need to address this in the industry." So she asked me to help work with them on it. And I said, absolutely. And so, shortly after VO Atlanta in 2016, They asked me to come work for GVAA, and we released the rate guide, and the rest is history. And so, my career has kind of been doing voiceover, but, working, a lot with GVAA as well. And now, I've kind of taken over running the company, and I'm the COO, and, kind of do a lot. I run it, pretty much full stop. And so my career has, in voiceover isn't as full as maybe it would be otherwise, but I think it's all come around. I've had some great clients. I work with some great clients. I've had some great jobs. So it's all kind of there. But that's really how it kind of got started. And I can't believe it's already been like 9 years in voiceover. And we're about to have our 10-year anniversary at GVA next year. So it's been a wild ride. It's hard to think back and be like, wow, that's where we came from. And it's so crazy. So that's the story.
It goes fast, doesn't it?
It
does.
does.
How often do you update the rates? I know you've been adding genres over the years. I've seen that happen, but how often are you updating the rates, or are you?
I mean, it's sporadic, and we'll say the reason why is if we were just updating them all the time, or on like, okay, every year we have to do this, there's not a lot of stability in that, and so if we change the rates every single time we got a bad rate from an agent or a job, like, it would be constantly bouncing around. So
Sure.
we're pretty prudent with it, and we get people, we kind of do it in large chunks. And you're right, we have added more. We've reviewed, and okay, we don't really need to change anything. And so we won't, or we change some things for lifts, edits, and versions, and getting some information out about that, or adding segments to certain genres. But we are actually starting a complete full-scale rate guide review. We're going to be doing animation in January with some pretty heavy hitters in the industry. So we're starting that whole process. We're working on a brand new website and a lot of other cool things. And so it's going to be this culmination, new guide with a new site. And we're trying to address a lot of things that have come up in the past couple of years, like the difference with digital media and digital broadcast, how we're actually going to quote for that when it doesn't match with TV and radio. And that's the methodology that we're using now. And there's so many different variances. If you have a TV thing, there's only a couple ways that you're of usages, but that's not the case in digital. So how do we handle that? Excuse me. How do we handle the creep of rates in, the combination of all these different things like lifts, edits, and versions, exclusivity being thrown in now, and just a lot of things, more value being put into for the same or less rate. So we kind of have to come together and figure out, what's the reality of things in the non-union, and how do we communicate that? And, adding other genres like, podcast series, which is kind of like a radio drama, but, doing things that are a little bit more well-rounded for where we are today in the industry. So that's coming up next year.
What was the baseline for the rates when you created them? Was that union stuff, or how did you get your baseline?
We did like a rain dance, and the rates fell from the sky. No, so basically, it was a combination of union rates in certain things, and then also we just got together like the top coaches, top voice actors. There was information that Christina was getting from her massive network, I guess. I was very young at that time, so I was in the industry, so it wasn't quite understanding. I didn't have connections, so a lot of it was Christina was bringing things in. And then we were just having meetings with a lot of these people that, casting directors, getting rates from production companies and things that were kind of these standard type of rates, agents, things like that, to understand what should rates be for professional jobs right now. So it was a mix of those things. If you look, there's some rates that do need to be updated, but they're on like hourly per hour, and then every additional half hour, and that's a straight up union type of rate. So there was that initial combination, but then a lot of just non-union experience took over once we started getting into the more non-union. Like if you think about non-broadcast, like, please don't ever do a union rate for non-broadcast. It rarely ever pays equivalent of non-union. So there's things like that where it wouldn't make sense to say, oh yeah, just do the $487 an hour. When you do an e-learning project, like you're going to lose a lot of money. So,
yes,
there's things where non-union really works and it doesn't make sense to go off of that. But then there's other things like radio drama or, things like that are per hour session time that do make sense, and therefore it follows a union scale. And I think we want to do that, as much as possible to create some synergy. I know, corporate buzzword, sorry, but to create some synergy with SAG-AFTRA, and
at the end of the day, we're trying to create synergy.
Synergy.
So, we want to be friends, we want it to not be us versus them, and that's not the case. It's just they don't cover the vast majority of voiceover projects, and so, with AI rates, that's kind of, we're working on that with Nava, with, as I'm a board member of Nava, so I'm working that with Zeke Alton and Sissy Jones, and we're kind of going back and forth with what's going on with the union and how they're handling, rates for AI, and there's some things that are kind of happening in the back end. So we're really just trying to have a unified front. We don't want it to be a vast difference, and I would love, the union to change how they do non-broadcast or just get rid of it because it's not really part of what the union does. It's more about commercial, video games, animation, even I guess audiobooks and promo, network promo. But for the most part, e-learning is never. Do they care about e-learning? No. So I think there's ways that we can help each other in that area.
Hang around. We'll be back shortly.
Hey, this is international award-winning voice actor Krista Walrock, and you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Oh, Bobby, it is the new year, and that means resolutions. That means what? Upping your game?
Upping your equipment. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw somebody on Facebook, a girl posted that she said her family got her a new Sennheiser mic. It wasn't the 416, it was a step down, but everybody's going like, oh, wow, your family must love you. But that feeling of getting new equipment is incredible.
And we love our friends at Full Compass. You can go to fullcompass.com. And let's just go there right now, Bobby. They've got excellent deals going on all the time. And let's just click the deals tab for a second and see what they got going on. And let's see, I'm going to go down to categories and let's go to Pro Audio. They've got all kinds of mixers. They have lots of great deals going on at fullcompass.com. Ooh, I can strongly endorse the AKG P220 Project Studio Large Diaphragm Side Address Cardioid Condenser Microphone. It's on sale for over 50% off. That's a great one you could get. They have another AKG, they have Samsons, they have Electro Voices, they've got all kinds of microphones on sale right now at fullcompass.com.
Anything you need in our industry of VO. And you know what? They're free shipping on orders over $49, 365 days a year, 366 since it's leap year.
What more could you ask for? How about a consultation on what to get? Call 800-356-5844 and you'll get on the line with a expert project consultant, and they'll help you with all your questions, whatever you need.
And a low price guarantee, and they've got that free 2-year service and repair plan. So what more could you ask for? They know their stuff. Fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Making Waves returns.
Speaking of helping each other and being an us versus them, there are some people that ascribe 100% to the GVAA rate guide. They believe in it. I believe in it for the most part, and I have used it, and I will be donating to you guys after we get off the air
thanks.
today. Yeah, you're welcome. But do you find that you get shade? Do you ever get embroiled in controversy? And I'm teeing it up for you right here, David. Do you get embroiled in controversy in terms of rates with those that believe in different models?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think there's, we've had some instances where there's a lot of people. I shouldn't say a lot. There's people in the industry that are more so on the capitalistic version of it, where it's this is a service and there's a job here, and I'm not going to subscribe to rates because that hurts my bottom line, or, it's a little bit more of a negotiation type of model, and it's about the money a lot of times, and not valuing it and valuing just getting the money in instead of it being appropriate dollars for what you're doing. So there's some people that have come from other schools of thought that they don't care about that. They're not they're not an arbiter or a protector of what's going on in the industry, and feeling that they are part of the industry. It's a little bit more of maybe side hustle or the hustle culture or gig economy, where I'm trying to do this to make money, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I don't care what I'm doing. I just want to make money. And that's where we see this drop off of, upholding standards and wanting to do that because you want to do that for the industry. And it's a different mindset, and it's just a totally different mindset from, a voice actor. I say, there's a difference between being a voice actor and being a voiceover service provider. And the latter is, this is gig, this is money. And the former is, this is a career and this is my livelihood, and I'm an actor and I need to be compensated fairly. And it's not just about the numbers of jobs coming in to add up to a certain number, and, there was, and I think referring to a post that, I kind of put out in one of the Facebook groups, and, I received an email from somebody that's pretty well known, somebody that I got my original information from starting in the industry. And, they had said, David, are you using, a voiceover organization's, voiceover rate sheet, and quote unquote, like, I don't, and here's why. And I just thought it was funny because they're talking about the rate guide, and I created it and I run the company.
You're like, I made that shit, yo.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh yeah, I do. I made it.
So it went out to a bunch of people, not just you.
Yeah, it was a marketing list for sure. Mm-hmm. It was a marketing list, and so I just posted it for fun, being like, oh, well, yes, I do, and so do some of your agents, and it's something that's widely used, obviously, and I know, agents have asked me rates. It's not uncommon that people, within the industry on the other side, hiring talent or representing them, come to me and talk to us about rates and things that are going on, because that's just where things are today. So, I thought it was kind of funny. It's just kind of ironic, that you're sending, asking the guy that kind of did the thing if he's following the thing. It's like, yeah, I kind of am. And so when I posted it, it did get a lot of reactions. There was some people defending that point of view, that type of model, and so there was I didn't really notice it. I kind of posted and dipped. I don't hang out on social media as much anymore, rarely. So this actually took a while for me to post this. I took a screenshot of this email I got a while ago and just forgot about it. So I was like, oh, this will be funny. Like, we just got the VO Service Provider Award from the NAVA Gala, and so GVA has kind of been in more forefront in the industry in the past couple months or so. And so I thought it would just be funny to kind of post that, and it did stir a little bit of a debate, and I think that was good. There was one person that was very supportive of this other person, and but the pattern remains. One of the things that person said that struck me was, this person says there's a lot of money to be made on Fiverr and defending Fiverr, and I said, that says it all right there. There's a lot of money to be made on Fiverr, and it's all about the money, not how the money is made and what that impact is on the industry. And that's where a voiceover service provider lives and an actor does not, I think. And so, I think that's a mindset shift of where you view yourself. And if you're like, oh man, I'm getting outbid on all these jobs, and it's like, it's this gig work instead of this is my career and I'm in it for the long haul. And I think those two paths take you to different endpoints.
And I respect everything you just said, and I do check on the GVA rate guide quite often and send links to my clients when they ask about a rate. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, but do you think that we're in a different time now? If you look at how many jobs are cast from TikTok or any social media, Instagram, a lot of those project casters are younger and a younger generation that wants things now. So they know their budget. They know what they want. They don't have time to go to an agent. They'd rather go to pay to play or Instagram or TikTok, and they know what they want. So I guess my overall question is, isn't it kind of like there's this and there's this? And I mean, we all obviously want to make money, but like you said, we're also voice actors, but we're all making money by doing this, at least most of us, right?
Hopefully, yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think we are in a different time. I wonder how many jobs are being cast on TikTok and Instagram. Like I don't know one person that's like, oh, all my work comes from Instagram. And so I wonder what that is. I haven't experienced it. I've done a lot of reels in the past, a lot of TikTok, never once got hired. That could be just I wasn't using it as a marketing tool. And, that's just something that I just haven't done. It's not really my thing. I kind of shied away from, I've grown away from social media in the past couple of years. But there's some people that's their thing. I mean, Stephen Johnson. I mean, he's a friend of mine.
I was just going to say him. Yeah.
And like he's just like, oh, let me make some stupid food review, and now it's like he's Cleveland's most interesting man or something. It's like the social presence in our world changes people's lives. And so there is something to be said. Like if you're doing that and you're getting jobs there, and in that type of clientele, that's what they want. That's then in my perspective, that's the field you're playing in. And now you're taking yourself, potentially out of, the jobs, the rates they should be, because the people casting them don't know what they're doing. And this is kind of the same thing on the online, pay to play sites. You have a client that doesn't know anything about voiceover, and they're casting the job for themselves. So what happens in that case? Oh, this sounds great. And are you getting an actor? Like, do you know what you're listening to? The same thing at Voices when they had their managed jobs, and the salespeople were picking people out of the auditions. And it's like, that makes no sense. So I think it can be varied. If you get good clients that are pro clients that just happen to be online and they want it then, there, and now, does that absolve them from a proper budget? Where does that lie? I mean, if they're getting use out of it, if they're putting a TV commercial on for 1 year on national TV and they want it right now, and then you get it from an agent and you do the session in a week and a half, the value is still there. So, it's hard to say, where does lower rates are acceptable? The only time is when you have lots of volume, and that's not something we can really control. When you say like, oh, but there's so much more work out there. It's like, well, am I getting it? There's a lot of work out there, but it's very diversified. It's not like I just go down like, oh yeah, I booked an extra 30 jobs this month. Like that's not really happening where you could say, okay, I can lower the rates because the volume is there. The exact opposite is happening where you get one spot. Like I just got one within the last 2 weeks where it was session fee. I think maybe it was $300 or $500. First year long usage. I think it was regional or national, $1,300. Each additional spot, $300. So it's like, wait, hold on. Where did we lose $1,000 from? Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of made up. And so now you're saying, well, here's volume, but now we're going to pay you. We're not even going to pay you the amount per spot. We're going to pay you, $1,000 less for these additional spots. So it's going the other way where we would need more volume, where a company's like, hey, we're going to hire you a bunch and we're going to use you. But what do? I see the same auditions 4 times a year because they're changing the voice every 3 months. So, it's hard to say. I mean, I think I would want to see a lot of volume and that be guaranteed where you're going to come off of rates that will then affect everybody else. It's a complicated thing. I'm not going to say it's straightforward by any means. And that's why we have these reviews and we bring people in. And I'm a little bit more of a realist. Like I'm like, hey, how many times have I seen $3,500 for a national TV commercial? not as often as I would like. So what's the reality of what rates are coming? And that's something we have to talk about, look at, and then address, and take all of those things into consideration, including, are we in a different market? Is this just going to be different? Has AI, JMC has talked about this, and I've talked about it as well, not through blogs and as big a megaphone, but like I've talked about the same thing where AI is going to take out the bottom feeding of the jobs. And if you listen to YouTube now, it's all AI. And so the ads, so there's a lot of that where it's like, hey, well, what happens on YouTube? Cheap, cheap, cheap. YouTube creators are cheap. They want the cheapest thing. And so they're going to AI because it's tech and it's easy and they can just get it done and out. Well, that's going to wind up taking out some of the jobs that people were getting on pay-to-play sites and other areas that now they're like, oh, we just needed whatever. And that's why we went there. Honestly, that does happen where they're like, oh, I don't need anything special. We'll just go to, Voices or something and get somebody. And they're not putting a lot of effort into it. So I think there's some of that where that volume of jobs will start to creep away as we see people doing different things using AI and other services. So it is extremely complex, in non-union especially, because we don't have signatories that are just saying, okay, whatever you say, whatever the contract is, we're going to follow. And that's where it makes it really difficult. So I agree and disagree at the same time, I guess. We're neutral on that.
This is John Malone coming to you straight from the Malone Zone. And you've got the best VO podcast in the whole internet right here. The Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Boy, are you lucky.
We're talking with David Toback, Chief Operating Officer of the Global Voice Acting Academy and steward of the GVAA Rate Guide. And David is going to favor us with a nightmare session story coming up in just a couple of minutes. You just mentioned something that I wanted to, unpack a little bit, and it's the union versus non-union. What about those, David, that say, hey, if everybody that is non-union is sticking with this GVAA Rate Guide, it's kind of creating its own non-union union without the benefits or bargaining power?
I think the one thing that the union does, that those contracts are enforceable, and you enter into a contract, with that, each genre contract or the areas that they have. This would be the commercial contract, which is also on camera, but when they renew it, now they have to, by law, they have to pay that. So it's a standard that is enforceable and is a contract, where the rate guide is a guide. It's helping people to understand their value. There's no set rates. They're all ranges, very intentionally for that very reason. Because if we were to say this is the rate, now we're in price fixing, we're involved in union activity. And so there's things that are there for that reason, to be a guide to know. And we talk about all the time, like, this is a guide so you know what your value is, but it's your business. You have to make the decision for yourself of what makes sense and what doesn't. And this is something that you can see where your value lies. And to some degree, the bargaining power, we would be going up against SAG-AFTRA. And so that fight would end pretty quick. I understand the premise, but I think the main, the crux of it and the real main thing there is that, when a union has a contract, they have a lot of lawyers behind it. And when someone goes off contract, if someone's not paying the right thing as a signatory, they go after them. And so it's something a little bit more that would happen in a union. And in the rate guide, it's meant to coalesce people around the value that they command, because there's no other way for us to understand what something should be worth. And it's pretty unique. I think, if my stepbrother's a plumber, and people in trades, they kind of know just what they should kind of charge based on an hourly rate. They kind of back that out, or there's like, oh, well, John's Plumbing does their service things for $150, so we should do ours for $150 too. There's kind of like this knowing of what rates kind of should be. But when you get into the arts, that just all evaporates. And because it's based on intangible things that we don't back out to a per hour rate. And that's why people was like, oh, what's your per hour rate? And you're like, well, doesn't really work that way. And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So I think, that gets it into the weeds a little bit where, people just don't know anything, and there's no structured education either. If you're in a trade school or something like that, willing to bet that they have some sort of education on standard rates when you're exiting a trade school or something to that effect. There's a lot of areas where people just kind of know what they should be charging, based on their industry, and we just don't have that anywhere. So that's what the rate guide purports to do. And, with our kind of affiliation with NAVA, that's the educational stepping stone that I think will make a big difference, where they're not coming to GVAA specifically. It's like NAVA is like, hey, this is a great resource to know your value, and people coming in the industry that link in with NAVA can then be educated on that. And that's been the biggest goal, is like, let us just educate people about the real world of voiceover and what rates you can expect, pay to plays, all of that. Like, I was supposed to start doing a monthly webinar for Voice 123 for all, clients and new people coming in, to let them know about the industry, the real industry that they were getting into, not the one that they found online by typing in, voiceover, and, educating them to what their power is in the industry, what their value is, as a voice actor, and so that they could make good decisions and participate in the overall voiceover industry that we all know, instead of it being this fractured thing where it's like, oh, I got mom's credit card, and, I have this, the initial, thing, I bought a Blue Yeti, and boom, I'm a voice actor. And that doesn't do anybody any good, especially the people doing that, because they don't know their value. That wound up not happening, but that's really what's been important, the educational aspect of people understanding and just learning about the industry. Because the fact of the matter is, I know people that I'm working with someone right now, their assistant, he makes a lot of money, has been doing voiceover for over 10 years, and still has no idea about certain rates things. And so the problem becomes, when you're non-union, you have to be your own agent, and you have to learn about all of these things, because we want the money, we want the jobs that come along with marketing to production companies and, audio production companies, and, whichever way you're going about your marketing. But then we don't know how to charge for it. So there's a lack of deep learning of your business in voiceover, because we kind of have a little bit of the shield of, this is fun, this is acting, and I want to do the fun, sexy thing. I don't want to sit there and learn about rates like I'm a lawyer, but I want to participate in it, and I want to get a commercial project on my own and be able to quote it, but then I have no idea how to do that. So that part of the educational aspect is missing, and that's the gap that we've been trying to fill.
But I think that you also, the veterans and people who've been, union or going by the GBA rates should have a little leniency on those people that are coming in, instead of calling them names and saying, I see that so much on social media, and it just, George Clooney did not become a union actor right away. I'm giving you an example. When he went to Hollywood, I'm sure he did it.
And we're not saying you specifically, David, but there
agree.
are people that poo-poo people and rate shame people, and these are people that gotta keep their lights on and pay their bills. How do you address that?
I don't think shaming. I think social media does a really good job of bringing the worst out of us in a lot of ways, and it's a really easy. And it's part of the reason why I've left. There's just so much noise and so much crap that goes on, even in the VO community and in groups. And it's like, shouldn't you be working on your business instead of being on Facebook, bitching about somebody not knowing something?
Right.
And it's kind of, people go to a group to ask questions, and it's like, why are you asking that question? You should know. It's like, I think there's a lot of people that, a lot of us are hurt. We've had a tough go of things with COVID, and a lot of people are they project their own insecurities about their life or whatever, and it makes them feel better about putting someone down that, oh, they didn't know that. Why didn't you know that? There's a right way and a very wrong way to go about that. And if you're just going to educate, hey, those rates aren't really serving you, it'd be really beneficial for you to really learn about professional rates, because if you're good enough to book the job, you're good enough to get an appropriate rate, and you're losing out on a lot of value, and you should value yourself more. I'd love to hear that instead of like what the rate shaming and all this name calling, and I just don't understand it. I mean, I guess I understand it. I just don't understand why people do it. But it's there, and I guess it's like a collectivist mentality. I really don't know, but I don't think, if other people listening and don't do it, just stop, because it doesn't look good. Like, I see it and I think lesser of you. Other people are going to see that and be like, oh man, I can't believe they treated that person like that, spend a little bit more time in real life, maybe not on the world that we've constructed and the world that is constructed for you on social media and on the internet. All of our bubbles are different, and then that becomes our real life. And so I'm not a proponent of that. I really want to educate and try to be professional about it. And yeah, people have to keep the lights on. I would just, the one thing that I would say kind of in opposition to that is that if you can't keep the lights on without sacrificing your value, then you shouldn't be doing it. You should be doing something else to keep the lights on. In addition, or that's something that we should think about, is that, like, oh, well, I got to take dirt cheap rates so I can just live. It's like, well, what were you doing before doing voiceover? And I think there's a scale. It's like, oh, I do things for less, or I'm on Fiverr and I do things for barely nothing, and because I got to keep the lights on, so everyone's situation is different, and so it's not a broad brush. But it's like, yeah, like if you're not making the money you need to with the rates, like you're selling yourself short and the industry, and that's something that is something to contend with. I think there's room. I do things for, I've done things for under rate guide rates. I think it's totally fine. There's going to be times where we want to build a client relationship. We want to give them a break. It's a nonprofit and they didn't budget enough. That just happened to me recently, and, they wanted multiple spots for like $1,000. And I was like, well, that's not really going to work. I was like, but I can do this for you guys. It was like a friend who worked in nonprofit that referred me. And she was like, oh, well, I'll definitely keep these industry standard rates in mind for when we budget out our projects in the future. So, I think that, and it becomes education, and I'll end, this thing right here is that, when you present yourself confidently and in your power as a pro, people respect that. And I think you'll find that, like this, instead of just being like, okay, yeah, let me do that and make the $1,000, I said, well, hey, here are the rates that I would charge. Like, what's your budget? And they're like, oh, we normally do things for like around 1,000, or it was like 1,500. And I was like, well, for all of this, like that's pretty well under, and they said for 2 years. And I was like, that's really not going to work. I was like, but I can do this. And they learned. So now they learned that, hey, we're not doing things with appropriate rates. And the good clients are going to be like, well, we need to pay standard rates. That makes sense, and that's fair. And you wind up educating and building client relationships, because then now you're the expert and they trust you because you're telling them that's not how this is. These rates should be more, I'm willing to work with you, instead of just, oh, I got to do it to keep the lights on. It's like it's a little bit of that desperation mentality instead of having an abundance mentality where things are going to happen. And then you get a session that you make $10,000 in, and it was a 2-hour session, and you feel really good when you close the door on the booth after that, right? And so I think it's a long game thing, and that's what happens when you play the long game as a career instead of the short-term gratification. But I understand it's a tough world. Inflation's crazy. Things. It's difficult for a lot of people. So I do understand that sentiment for sure.
Well, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking real money.
Before you get to your nightmare session, one more question. Can you tell us a little bit about what GVAA offers a voice actor other than a rate guide?
Everything. Love, support, integrity,
Free tacos.
Yeah, free, I'm going to write that down and talk about that in our staff meeting next week. Like free tacos. We would probably get a lot of people on board with that. Because tacos.
Yeah, the fiber
tacos.
crowd.
But no, I mean, we've been, we come from a place of integrity and love for the industry and the people in it, and not from a profit motive. And I think that's really what sets us apart. I coined a motto, we do things for the benefit of the voice actor, not our bottom line. Excuse me. And so,
were you holding for applause there, David?
No, the coffee, the lunch I just had was rudely interrupting. You can just edit that out.
No, keep it in.
But the bodily functions, we're authentic here on Making Waves.
Exactly.
So
that's how I met you, was taking some webinars from GVAA. So that's a nice little perk.
Yeah, and we've come from that place of educating and being able to let people know about the real industry. And we were started before I came into GVAA. Christina started it with David Rosenthal, and the whole thing was, people were getting scammed. The weekend voiceover, course, $5,000 and get 2 demos when you leave. And they were just like, this is horrible. Like, we have to do something about it. So we came from a place of people being scammed and being like, hey, we need to provide a resource, so that people can get good coaching instead of these, the internet kind of was taking over at that time, right? So now we have these people that are scamming people out of their money, and they're coming, into the fold, and it's like they got to start over. It's a waste of their money. So that's where we were started from, not like, oh, we could do some coaching and make some money. So that kind of gives you the blueprint of where we started, and that's the core of our essence: integrity, love, support, nurturing, and helping people progress in their voiceover journey. So we offer, we have webinars like you just said, Bobby. We do a lot of webinars on current topics. And if you hear my dog barking, well, that's authentic too. So it's been so quiet. Must be someone at the door. But so we do webinars. We've done in the past. We've done classes like multi-day classes. We don't do as many of those. We do some workshops, like one-day workshops. So educational events for sure. We offer one-on-one coaching through our roster of coaches that are top tier. Been in the business for almost everybody 20 plus years. Except we have some new superstars that have joined us. Jennifer Sunbell and Courtney Lynn that are just tearing it up in their respective careers. So and doing coaching now and stuff. So we're always changing in that regard. We have one-on-one coaching. We produce demos. We did about 28 demos this year. So we're kind of an under the radar demo producer. We're not great at blasting our names out there and everything we do. That's something we need to get better at. But yeah, we do a lot of demo production and some pretty dang good demos, if I do say so myself. And we also have our membership program that we started a few years ago now. And we started that because we were like, hey, voiceover coaching gets expensive. And when you're trying to really build a foundation, just buying packages of one-on-one coaching with people gets really, really expensive real quick. Yeah. So we devised our live coaching-based membership to kind of like a gym. It's like you pay your monthly fee and you come in and you get to work. And if you're consistent, you're going to see results. And we've seen people just skyrocket in their careers. We've seen people just, people come from radio and have, the problem sometimes losing their radio sound or,
Who's he talking about, Kevin?
Yeah. Are you throwing shade at us now?
Absolutely not. No. Just
absolutely.
No.
Not.
Just an example. Was like sometimes it's hard to make the transition to being an actor in that sense, and people working on
it is tough.
And even people come from like, oh, I did. There's someone now. He's like, he did PA announcing, and the same thing happens. You get that. You get that kind of projection, and and so we're saying, hey,
it's the same with journalists, by the way.
Yeah, because
people that come from TV,
the news
and stuff.
Absolutely, and it's just because that gets in your head, and then also like I'm a polished voice actor now because I learned how to like work a script, a few years ago. So now you have to unlearn like, oh, now I got to be really natural and real, so the same thing can apply in all those areas. So we see people that really work on things. I mean, we've had people that are on spectrum, that have just blossomed and have really found their voice. So that's been really rewarding. But we do that. We have live coaching. We have 2 workouts a month you can go to. We have a bunch of the coaches on our roster coach in the membership, including Christina, David Rosenthal, myself, Sean Daly, Brian Summer, Katie Lee. We have Carol Monda, Jeff Howell. Like, we have a really great list of people that are there providing ongoing coaching. We do a Q&A webinar every month, which no holds barred, where we help people. You have discounts. We do consults throughout the year for individual people. And we're introducing a new wrinkle to it where we're going to be really helping people on their journey. So when they come in, they'll be kind of put into a tracks, our commercial, narration, animation, and we have certain things along the way, kind of like an e-learning course. Do this, do this, do this within the membership. So they kind of have a roadmap of where they're going instead of just handing them the keys to the Ferrari and say, go have fun. So, we have around 200 members and growing. And so in that membership, and we have some really cool things coming out next year, a content app. We're going to have a streaming app for all of our content, which is going to be awesome. Coming up, who knows exactly when, but with our new website. So we're doing a lot of big things that are going to really kind of push the needle forward. And the whole goal is to help people on their voiceover journey, towards their demo and beyond. We don't stop when you come in and get a demo and coaching with us. We help you brand. We help you, find agent representation. We help you along that path. So everything is focused on making people better voice actors and better prepared to have a career and have a business in voiceover. And then we have the rate guide and some other stuff too, I'm sure that I'm forgetting.
And where can they go to get the membership information?
Oh, yes. You can go to our website, globalvoiceacademy.com, and there's a little membership button at the top. And I think we have a little spiff for the listeners, don't we?
Do we? I would love that. That would be amazing. For our Making Waves listeners?
I think we do.
Do tell.
So we'd love to, we do promotions on a regular basis, or not regular, but throughout the year. And so we'd love to offer promotion for all the listeners. You can get your first 3 months half off, so it'd be $29 a month. The membership's $59 a month normally.
Yeah.
So after the 3 months, it goes to $59 a month, or you can take $100 off the annual fee of $5.99. So that'd be $4.99. So you get 50% off for your first 3 months, or $100 off the annual. And just as a little bit of a forewarning, we are looking at increasing our membership price. We haven't done it for 4 years or so. And with all the stuff that we're adding, we're looking at, for new members coming in, there may be a different rate sometime in the new year.
So act now.
It's something, yeah. So if it's been something you've been thinking about, or you think, oh, this might be cool, now would be a good time. You will get locked into the pricing that we currently have until we release all of our new stuff. And we're investing in technology and a lot of things like that, and providing, a lot more services and so that's kind of where we are with that. And we haven't decided, but most likely we're doing that. So yeah, this will be a good opportunity to kind of get in the fold and join us. And we'd love to have, as many new people as possible. We love it. And we foster a really good community of love and support. There's no judgment. We become friends with everybody, and we're there to help guide people and help them along their journey. And it just becomes more of a passion than a job, quite frankly. And that's why I live. I love helping people. I come from all my family is in medical or teaching. And so it's only apropos that I get into voiceover and then find myself helping and teaching. So, that's kind of the heart of, the people that work at GVAA as well. We're all very similar. David Rosenthal and I, Christina and Sean, we're all very close friends. And it's all because we share a lot of the same values, and we project those values of love, support, integrity, into everything we do with GVA and into our membership. So Yeah.
So say you've sold me on the Global Voice Acting Academy membership. We go to the membership page, we go to checkout, and then we enter a discount code. Is that
Yes.
right? When we check out to get that discount?
That might be helpful. Yeah. So when you get to the page where you would actually enter all your information in, there's a little, it's kind of annoying. It's going to change with the new site and everything. We haven't done any updates. We've been working on the site for a while now, but there's a little tiny line that has an underline that says, do you have a coupon code? It's not like usually a checkout. It's like a big box when you're about to hit the button to pay. So just be aware. We have several people that miss that. So it's there and you click on that.
It is there. I'm seeing it now.
Yeah,
so.
cool. It's there, but it's easy to gloss past when you say, oh, I got to enter my info. And it's very easy to go down like name, address, all that stuff. So you just click that button and the code is Making Waves. No E. Making Waves.
WAVs.
MAKINGWAVS.
Making Waves, yes.
Yeah, Making Waves. And David, thank you so much for doing that, for offering our listeners that
Yeah,
discount.
that's
It is
awesome.
much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
And the Making Waves VO podcast, we'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Walsh of The True Tell, and you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with my friends Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
As a voice actor, you want to focus on what's important, right? Like pulling off the perfect read. You don't want to stress about tech stuff. That's why Full Compass is in your corner. With 50 years experience in pro audio, Full Compass has everything we voice actors need. Mics, headphones, monitors, mixers, interfaces, DAWs, all the goodies. And their certified product experts help with everything they sell. Plus, you can get free same-day shipping, flexible financing, and a low price guarantee. See it all at fullcompass.com. Fullcompass.com. They know VO.
Now back to the podcast.
It's been a blast having you on, man. And before we wrap up, can you share, because beyond all of this great stuff you're doing with the Global Voice Acting Academy, you're a voice actor at heart.
I am.
And we've all had sessions where they've been bad. It's like the director, you had 7 directors, or maybe you meet people in live sessions and they've got greasy hands and you're like, what do I do with that? Or it could be tech stuff. David Toback, could you please favor us with a nightmare session story?
Nightmare Sessions.
So I've been pretty fortunate where I haven't had any greasy hands or 17. I've had a couple.
Directors.
I've had some where there was, wasn't so much of a nightmare, but multiple people in different continents, like saying like conflicting things, like we want it more conversational, and then that's not really what they wanted. Like, oh no, can we have it faster and a little bit more uptight? So we've had my fair share of that, but I think my scariest thing was actually just last week. I finally booked with a production company that I've been on the roster for a while. They found me, auditioned for them on Voice 123 years ago, and they said, hey, we'd love you to join our roster, and just haven't booked, since whatever, how that goes. But I've worked with them on rates and stuff. They use GVA rates, and we've had lots of conversations, so I know him well. And I finally booked something. He's like, yes. And 5 minutes before the session, I go start up Source Connect, and it says, this can't be found. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I had a session 2 weeks ago. Like, he's like, and I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, Uncle Roy, help. Like, I'm like freaking out because, I knew there was going to be people on it, but it's kind of a little bit of the irrational thing because they're probably going to be like, oh, we understand the technology, but we're like, no, it needs to be perfect and we don't want to look bad. And so I'm like freaking out, and I email the engineer like, I don't know what's going on. Source Connect does this. He's like, let's jump on a call, and he's trying to help me. I called, Source Connect and left a message like, I have a session in 2 minutes. I need to please call as soon as you can. So then, at like 1 minute after the session was supposed to start, Source Connect calls back and like, oh, you just need to deactivate and reactivate the license. I'm like, why in the world would we need to do that? Like, it just magically it doesn't work anymore. And I think that there was a problem they had where a lot of licenses,
I think you're right,
just were like the payments. There was a disconnection even though your payment went through. And if you're in Source Connect in the I don't know what you call it, but like or the IP or not the iLock, if you're in there and it'll say like reactivate, that doesn't work. You got to actually deactivate and then go back select it and activate it again, because I tried reactivating it and that didn't work. So it was just this weird error message that even the engineer hadn't heard of. And so I was freaking out. And so I was profusely sweating. That I'd be like, oh my God, oh no. And then everything was fine. It was a great session and nobody cared. It was like 5 minutes late and they're like, oh, thanks so much for making time for us before the holidays. We really appreciate it. And it wound up being really great session and really fun. So lesson learned though.
Crisis averted.
Yeah, crisis averted, and I'll definitely know what to do next time. And
Man,
maybe you will too.
We always have this thing, man. I had one time that it happened, I don't know, it's been 5, 6, 7 years ago. And ever since that one time, I always fire it up, test with somebody. I don't do the tone test. It's not garbage. It is effective and it has its purpose. But I always fire it up and test with Bobby or other friends. And David, we're roster mates with Ta-Da.
Yeah.
And we've got that group that everybody's on. Hey, can you test Source Connect? So I guess you learned that lesson, right?
Yeah. I figured that if I used it 2 weeks before that it would still be working.
Never!
Lesson learned. Now I'll check an hour before a session instead of 5 minutes.
Surf's Up. It's the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. This is voice actor and studio owner Christy Bowen, and they appreciate you listening.
It's been so great having you. A lot of information here.
Yeah, we appreciate you answering the tough questions. Hopefully we weren't too hard on you.
No, not at all. I appreciate it, and thanks for asking the tough questions. It's important to kind of see other sides. And I was, talking with Kevin. It was like, I like, I'm open to countering information, countering opinions. I'm not strident, and I'm pretty strident, but there's definitely room for solid sound difference of opinion to be kind of brought up, and I think that's important in the discourse.
Agreed.
Great stuff. David, thanks for your time, and globalvoiceactingacademy.com. Go check it out.
Globalvoiceacademy.com.
Globalvoiceacademy.com.
I guess when they've got the URL, the acting just made it too long. I don't know. And now gva.com is a lot of money. So if you want to donate like 6 figures, we might be able to get gva.com. But yeah.
And don't forget the Making Waves discount code.
Yes, Making Waves. Yes, exactly. And if you have any other questions, you can send us an email through the website, through the contact form, and we can get back to you. But thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it, and I'm wishing you guys a great new year and great 2024. I feel good things coming.
Absolutely, you as well.
Well, Bobby, that did not get as ugly as I had hoped it would. I was hoping for a Maury Povich moment. David Toback, you are the father.
I just kept on wanting to say, can't we all just get along?
Yeah, but what spurred the episode was, the post that he talked about was, I saw that and it was a pretty heated discussion. And it is a shame, like he said, I'm so glad he did not, buy into that and feed that. He tried to maintain decorum and professionalism, but
yes,
some people just they like to feed into that, and they call people names, and that's not necessary. We're all grown-ups. We're not all pros. Some of us try to be, but not everybody is. And
it's all about learning in this industry. It takes some people longer than others, so just let them do their thing until you try to educate them in the meantime. That's how I look at it.
It's well said, Bobby. Well said. So that wraps up another fantastic episode of the Making Waves VO podcast, presented by Full Compass and FullCompass.com. And Bobby says,
we know VO.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.